The Fox News liberal Jessica Tarlov is back after having taken extended time off due to a pregnancy, but we are happy to see her return and have her back on Fox to provide pushback to their propaganda in a way that only she can. So we have a couple of different clips to look at of her just shutting down Fox 4v1 on the 5 like the good old days, and their narratives that they're trying to drive home about Trump's attempted assassination. So let's start here.
Nobody who's being an honest broker can possibly believe that the Democratic rhetoric is the problem here. So if the issue is that we're saying all the time that he's like Hitler and he's a threat to democracy, and by the way, J.D. Vance has also said that he's like Hitler, and I guess he's redeemed now. But Donald Trump sent a fundraising email just last week that said Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. And only one of these candidates has inspired people who send pipe bombs to leading Democrats across the country, who has inspired mass shooters. Talk about firing up the base. Donald Trump has been doing that since 2016. Remember when he said the Second Amendment people could take care of it? When he was talking about Hillary Clinton abolishing the Second Amendment and she'll get to appoint judges. He talked about, remember that congressman from Montana who body slammed a reporter and he said, he's my type. He retruthed or whatever it was, a video of Joe Biden hogtied. Just back in
that was hilarious.
And even Gutfield can't help himself but laugh and say that's hilarious. When has a Democrat ever shared something of that level and been like, this would be funny? If you're being objective and honest with yourself, it's clear which side is up the level of rhetoric and violence and just overall hateful demeanor in politics. Who came into politics pushing the birther narrative against Obama? Who came in literally saying lock her up, giving his political opponents mean nicknames as one of the main reasons he rose to prominence, labeling the other side vermin and thugs who hate America? There's been 54 cases of violence that have been directly connected to Trump and his rhetoric, including 12 cases where the perpetrators hailed Trump as the reason they did the act, 18 where they were cheering or defending him during the act, and 10 where his rhetoric was specifically cited in court as the sole reason they did it. The shooter in El Paso had a manifesto that mirrored Trump's rhetoric to a T. Trump mocked Paul Pelosi after he got attacked by a MAGA conspiracy theorist, telling the Second Amendment pro-gun people to go ahead and take care of Hillary. And when he does all of these things, his supporters turn a blind eye. They don't bat an eye. At every single corner they can, they justify it or pretend it didn't happen. His supporters to this day share memes that mock George Floyd's death. They call the Gretchen Whitmer situation fake, or they laugh that it happened to her. But now they want to point fingers and say, no, it's not us that have brought political rhetoric to the level of violence, even though Trump's shooter was a literal Republican who had Trump signs in his yard.
Crooks's motive is still unclear. Records show he is a registered Republican, and neighbors today told us that they've actually seen Trump signs outside of the home over the course of the last few years.
It just shows how even now Republicans are using this incendiary rhetoric in the political sphere. They still haven't stopped and taken a moment of introspection, despite the shooter being a registered Republican who voted as such in the 2022 midterms, had Trump signs outside his house, and students at his school said that his friend group was conservative and would even wear Trump hats. What's going around is that Democrats did this. It was the left. It's Democrats' fault. It's their rhetoric. And I can sure say that after something like this, both sides should probably take a step back from the heated discourse that they have been using, and Democrats largely have. Joe Biden has released a response that was very powerful, calling for the tone down of this kind of rhetoric, calling for unity. Every single member of Democratic leadership, if you go down the list, all have spoken out denouncing this violence, saying it has no place in America. However, Republicans are just using it to point fingers at Democrats and say, they're evil. It's them. They are demons, which is the exact type of rhetoric that got us in this place in the first place. They want to pretend that it's Democrats being divisive when they're literally responding to a shooting by trying to grow the divide. It's not even close.
Trump laughs about a picture of a hogtied Joe Biden on the back of a pickup truck. That is not demonization. That is a meme.
And saying to Second Amendment people you could take care of it about Hillary Clinton, what is that, Greg? That was his opponent. That was his political opponent.
Trump again started this by spreading the birther narrative with Obama, then went on to chant lock her up about Hillary, then labeled all Democrats Marxists, thugs, criminals. They hate America, calling Biden senile aisle, sharing pictures of him hogtied, cheering on violence to Paul Pelosi, pipe bombs that were sent to Democrats. He literally sent a mob to the Capitol that was chanting "Hang Mike Pence," and they were looking for him to actually do that act. But right, you know, it's the Democrats for saying that Trump is a threat to democracy, when the truth is, if you're going to treat Trump like a king, the Supreme Court is going to rule that he can't be held accountable for anything he does like a king. People are going to treat him as such, and it's not always going to be nice. People who aren't bought into that aren't going to respond the way that MAGA extremists do. But my advice would be to check your own, because it was a gun-loving, Trump hat-wearing Republican who did this, not a Democrat, and nothing has shown to this day that he was inspired by Democrats. You know, the way that mass shooters constantly leave manifestos to show that they are clearly inspired by right-wing ideas.